Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, your host, as always, Andrew O'Hara. And joining me this week, my original guest fell through, but fortunately, I put out the call on Twitter, and my guest popped up very quickly. We have talked about them on the show before. So this is Thibaut Renier, who is the CEO of the company behind Maisomage, one of the great HomeKit apps, Apple Home apps that are out there. So we've talked about app updates on the show before, and now we have the CEO of the company joining. So Thibaut, thank you for joining. We're gonna walk through the news as usual, and then we'll get to talking about some app stuff.
Thank you, Andrew. Fine.
And you are right now in Europe, so I extra appreciate this because this is later in the day and you are still signing in to take this call. So again, thank you so much for stepping in here, and I think we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today, per usual, I guess.
Thank you.
Well, I guess let's start with tvOS stuff. This happened like right at the end, right last week when I was on with Dan and Mark Gurman. He did his thing where he releases things right after I've already recorded. So we couldn't touch on it very much. But maybe this is a little bit of an obvious thought, perhaps. But he is confirming that a tvOS redesign is also coming at WWDC, which I'm super excited about. We have been very focused on Apple's new glassy appearance coming to things like iOS, iPadOS, and the Mac, and making all those kind of look more unified, maybe pulling inspiration from visionOS, Vision Pro. But this is the first time that we've heard, really confirmation that tvOS will be touched in the same way. And there frankly hasn't been an update to tvOS's overall appearance basically since like the new generation, right? Since we went away from the really long, skinny one that was like the old school like Mac Minis. Now it's like the tiny little black boxes, but it hasn't really changed since then. So I'm all about this. I think this is great. Gurman also mentions watchOS is getting somewhat of a redesign. So just really across every Apple operating system, this makes sense. So I'm pretty excited about this. Do you use an Apple TV, Thibaut?
Of course, yeah. Because the Apple TV and HomePods are the home hubs for HomeKit, so it's mandatory to have them. And that's why also we developed Maisomage for Apple TV, because that's a screen that you can have and you can want to change the light or the settings of your home, close your shutters, your window blinds and so on. But what is funny, in fact, is that there was a big change in tvOS 18 regarding the tab bars. If you have a window with a tab bar, before, if you remember a while ago, it was a rectangle on the top of the screen just with text. And the current tab was a different color. That was all. And now with tvOS 18, we have a real tab bar like on the iPads. And in
That's
fact,
true, yeah.
it comes from the Vision Pro interface. And iPadOS was also changed because the tab were not designed like they are right now. And currently, iPadOS, tvOS, and macOS 15 have the same kind of tab bar which are new. And if you look closely, you will see that there are shadows. So the tab that is unlighted, you have a rectangle, a rounded rectangle around, which is white probably, and with a shadow below. So we already had steps, but they are small steps. And in fact, it was the testing team in our company that discovered that just after putting another version of our app in our test environment, the tab bar was changed. So just using the latest Apple tools for making apps was changing the way it was displayed on new releases. So that's why if you have old apps on Apple TV, you still have the old way. But if you use new apps, then you have the new tab bar like you have in Apple Music, for instance.
True, and that is always like the benefit for, some people do these really cool custom UIs, but when you're using Apple's native tools, native tab bars, everything like that, when Apple updates those designs, they just flow through your app. So that's such an easy way to get an upgraded UI without you really having to do anything at all, just rebuilding on, tvOS 18.
And the user doesn't have to guess how it works because it's new, but it's the same way everywhere. What we wonder is how it will be on iPhones, because on iPhones you still have the tab bar at the bottom. There's this gray bar, not always gray, but with tiny icons and really tiny text below. And perhaps this will change, and this would be a major step, probably.
I think we're all taking this with a grain of salt, but I think what we saw from John Prosser was that Apple was going to be doing a floating tab bar. So similar to the tab bars that we have on iPad and Apple TV and such, but bring that to the iPhone and put it at the bottom of the screen within reach of your thumb.
Yeah.
But then your content is going to flow under it, and you're going to have that shadow effect of the bar hovering above the content. I think that makes sense, and that would continue that unification of that tab bar design across everything.
On iPad, the tab bar is already floating on top. When you scroll, it's still on top.
Yeah, so I think they brought that, like you said, so I didn't realize that. I didn't even pay attention. They brought it to the Apple TV. Now they brought it to iPad last year, I think, and it makes sense that this year we would get it on the iPhone too. This also kind of ties in with the previous rumor that we heard, which moves on to our next topic, which is Apple's Home Hub. Part of the reason for the delay, like that it was going to launch in spring, was the UI. If Apple refreshed the UI on this, it would kind of tip its hat on how things would look, post WWDC. Now, if Apple were to launch this after WWDC, the whole unified look would make sense, and it could have one UI instead of having to update it post dub. So that makes sense to me. And of course, Gurman said as well that this is on track to launch by the end of the year. But that's also, he's saying, the end of the year at the earliest. So this still could be a 2026 launch, but it gives me that little bit more hope that we will see this year. And I'm curious, coming from your perspective, how do you feel about, right now the rumors are saying no third-party apps at launch for Apple's Home Hub, but especially for like a smart home app, you got to be really eager to get Maisomage onto the Apple Home Hub thing.
Of course, because that's a place where you would have you would put such apps, and that's a place to use such apps. And when we see the job that Apple did for the Home app, it was a great step forward, but it's not a perfect app at all. Especially from what we see, perhaps we. No, I will talk about the Home app a little bit later, but about the Home Hub, what is really important, or perhaps which could explain a delay for third party, is if there are apps for third parties, then the API should be delivered in WWDC. There is
okay,
no
so you
choice
still hope to get the APIs now, even if they don't launch right away.
We'll see. In fact, what I think is that we will see if it's a tvOS or iPadOS based this way also. Because if it's tvOS based, they would be forced to announce it now to have third-party apps. Because tvOS is not touchscreen. So the new Home Hub will be HomePod. Home Hub will have touchscreen to be convenient. And then tvOS is not touchscreen, something must change. If it's iPad based, then there is no need to specify how it will work. It will be just a few APIs but then they would lock some apps to run on it, so I don't know what they plan. What is interesting is that the HomePod uses the tvOS also, and perhaps it would be simpler to have tvOS on this thing. If you remember, previously the iPad could be a Home Hub. You could plug it to the socket and then have it powered and being used as a Home Hub, but now it's no longer available. So I'm wondering if, just to be clear for your audience, the hub in HomeKit is a device that is always powered to manage automation. Without a hub, you can't have automations in your home. So that's why the Apple TV can be one, because lots of people have Apple TVs, but if you don't have an Apple TV, then you can have at least one HomePod, and the HomePod will manage the home as a hub. Um, the point is the Apple TV is more powerful. It could be wired, so it's a better hub. And now we can choose in the home setting which device should be the first hub. Before it was automatic, and sometimes it was a HomePod in the garden that was the home hub, and now it's way better.
That's true. I do kind of miss that it's not on iPad any longer, but I think it makes sense. I think it was too confusing of like if people were using that as their main home hub and then it was left unplugged and then now it's no longer going to work. You literally needed to keep it plugged in all of the time, and at that point they just might as well make what they're making, some sort of smart display with a touch screen.
Yeah.
I think tvOS is going to be the base. I think we've seen the work already between the new interface switcher for the screensavers. I think that is what that is. I think the same thing with Control Center. I forgot about that. That added with tvOS 18. I think that's, again, a preview of what's going to make perfect sense on this smart display. So it'll be really interesting. We're getting close. We'll see if we have any new clues coming out of DubDub.
But if there is no announcement at DubDub, you will know that there will be no apps. That's for sure.
True. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's going to be, stuff is always left in the code. We've seen everything from Apple renaming, their operating systems. That came out this week. So I'm hoping we get a little nitpicks, a little more information from these first developer betas. Maybe their way around it is they introduce their Home OS, right? And the Home OS adds the touchscreen stuff, and they don't have to maybe publicize it necessarily that it's meant for a smart display, but we'll all know it. We'll know it.
So my second point, if you don't mind, is about the job Apple did for the Home app. Because right now we are a bit in a remote control home. It's not smart at all because you say, oh, I want to switch on the light. I take my phone, I press a button. I want to change the color. I take the phone, I change the color. And then you just press buttons every time for everything. And if I have 1 million color in my light, I don't want to choose the color each time I read, each time I eat, each time I work, or each time I watch TV. So that's why they had made scenes, but the Home app is a crap for scenes because you see 2.5 scenes for your home. Well, how do you want to manage your home that way? And if they do a home hub in such a way, it won't be really great. It would just be a control panel to press some buttons. That's true. What we think, in fact.
I think they're eventually going to have to get to the spot where they're using we saw this a little bit already with Control Center where we're getting the predictive scenes based on your usage. Like literally every time I go upstairs and I go to bed and it's like, do you want to run the good night scene? I'm like, yes, I do. It knows. And I feel like that predictive AI is where Apple's going to tiptoe in next. And we're going to see that come out a little bit with the Smart Home Hub. But I mean, you nailed it. We're really in a remote controlled home, not a smart home. The fact that I can't ask Apple's assistant to do two things at the same time drives me crazy. I want to just say, turn on the living room lights and open the window to 75%. And I can't do that. I have to say, turn on the living room lights, wait for that to happen, and then say, open the living room blinds to 75%. I have to do two separate commands with a pause in between, waiting for that command to finish running. And it's ridiculous. So at a minimum, I'm going to need that to get fixed sooner rather than later. Okay, we have more news from third-party stuff, and I wanted to, real quick, go hands-on with, this showed up literally like an hour ago, so I have not had time to play with it, but I can at least hold it up. So if anyone's watching the video, they can check this out. But this is the Thorbolt X1. It is a smart deadbolt that uses HomeKit or Apple Home over Thread, and it supports HomeKey, which is fantastic. It also has a fingerprint reader in it, and the whole thing is $130, which I'm frankly really impressed with, that you can get a Thread Apple Home deadbolt for $130, with HomeKey in there as well. So here's what it looks like. It is a little bit bulky, I would say, compared to some of the other ones. But the part facing the camera now is the outside. You have a little NFC logo at the top. That's where you can tap your watch or your phone to authenticate via HomeKey. Then down below that, we have this little spot where you can press on the side and it like counterlevers out. And hidden behind that, you're going to have a sealed key spot, so you can use a physical key to get into this. And there's a USB-C port, which is going to be your backup power. So you have power supply as well as physical key, just like you would a lot of door locks. So that's handy, but I also like that it's hidden behind that little panel. So from the front, this looks super, super clean. It's just a matte black surface, and there's a little circle in the bottom right hand corner with a light around it. That's your fingerprint reader. So tap it with your finger. You can authenticate that way. If you don't use HomeKey or anything, you have family members that they are not accessing with the actual home app or anything, or with HomeKey, you can give them fingerprint access and enroll them that way. Also has passcode, so when it turns on, there's a big passcode screen right in the middle where you can enter your passcode, enter that way. This will hold 60 passcodes, and it'll do 100 individual fingerprints, so you can enroll multiple of your fingers. So if you're carrying things, you can still get in with like the tip of your pinky and it'll still work. IPX5 resistance on there. You can manage access in Apple Home, which includes giving access to people, and they're saying 18 months of battery life on this with 8 AA batteries. So the back part here on video, we're showing the back part. It's got a silver throw that you can use to lock and unlock, and above that, you have your HomeKit code and where the keys go. I will say, weird placement of the HomeKit code. Look at that, TiVo. It's like right on the inside of the lock. Like they didn't even put it inside the battery compartment. So like I would, of course, just peel off the sticker because I don't want a sticker right on the inside of my door lock. So I think that's a little funny of a placement for the sticker to go, but it is what it is. I'm still impressed. $130 for a HomeKey lock. There's not that many HomeKey ones out there. I think this is a really great way to get into that for a pretty affordable price. It's a little on the plasticky side because, you know, it's a more affordable product, but I think this is nice. I think this is a pretty nice retrofit lock. So I'll have more in a full review later. Any first impressions, Thibaut, on this?
We don't use such products right now because there are lots of them, and the standard are just coming, and we are waiting to see what we can do with those Deadbolts.
What's smart? Like I know everything is different in the EU in terms of locks. What is do you have a smart lock on your door, and which one do you go with?
Not yet.
No?
No.
I know the Nuki, right? NUKI, that's really popular in Europe.
Yeah.
So that one always looks like a really nice one.
Yeah, but we don't have the... we have different keys than you have in the US. Yes. But it's standard also. The last time in one of your show, you talk about Asa Abloy. It's a brand. It's a big brand in Europe. So there are main actors everywhere. So
yeah, that is a big one. We're seeing so many smart locks launch. I feel like I was just inundated with them at CES. So we're going to keep seeing some more. I still have the level lock with HomeKey on my door, and part of me, like I do test all these on different doors for periods of time, and part of me like wants to switch over my main door to try something else that has crazier things, but we've always been pretty solid with just the HomeKey. If there's a good UWB one, maybe I'll switch to that. That'll maybe be something that'll finally get me to switch door locks, because it's been pretty solid for a while. Well, next up in the news, we have TP-Link. TP-Link has their Tapo TP H500. This is a hub. It is primarily for Tapo devices, so anything in like the TP-Link Tapo line, but also third-party Matter ones. But it comes with an asterisk, and this is kind of where things get confusing with Matter. From my understanding, this isn't necessarily bridging, like Aqara has Matter hubs, SwitchBot has Matter hubs, and with those, you connect certain devices to them, and then those can show inside of the Home app. Like it'll be like a Zigbee device or something. It'll add them, then it'll add them through Matter into Apple Home. This isn't necessarily doing that. This is allowing you to have all of those devices show up inside of like the Tapo app. Because if you have a Matter device, you don't necessarily need a third-party hub. You just add it right into, Apple Home. The only home hub you need, like you said, Thibaut, is your HomePod or your Apple TV. That's all you need to be able to use them. So this is really for people who are in that Tapo, TP-Link Tapo space. It has Matter over Wi-Fi, no thread. It'll connect 16 Tapo or TP-Link cameras to this thing and 64 smart sensors. Again, just really meant for TP-Link devices. They also have a new deadbolt, the Tapo DL100, but I don't care about it because it doesn't support Apple Home. So it's not a, yeah, no, there's other locks. There's other locks out there. So just another hub. I feel like it just gets a little bit confusing with these, like the Matter hub situations on third-party stuff. I don't know.
And then you need another hub for another brand, and it's very complex. Yeah.
True. I'm trying to avoid adding hubs to my house. We're going to talk about more in a minute of them, but I have already the Hue, the Arlo, the Aqara, Lutron. I think that might be it. I think I might be holding at those 4. But sometimes I get pushed to try to add extra ones in there for fun new products. But I think right now I'm sitting at 4 third-party hubs as well as my HomePods and Apple TVs. I just like those are built in. I don't have to have an extra hub plugged into things. Well, we've got Govee next. Govee has some pretty fun things. I'm going to save my favorite for last. So first there's outdoor garden lights. I think I talked about these on the show already, but now they're like official. So 16 million color support, the RGB, WWIC, like the independent control for different zones. So they're like split into different like light sections that you can individually control. Full spectrum, white light, all these different things. There's 64 preset scenes and goes with the Govee app. It has Matter compatibility. These do have to be plugged in compared to the ones we looked at last week that were the Nanoleaf ones. These ones are actually plugged in, but then they're full Matter connectivity and everything. So those are cool. There's a second, well, these are the second other ones out there. Then they have outdoor clear bulbs. Like clear bulb string lights, IP67 water resistant. They are impact resistant, so if they fall down and you drop them, they're not going to shatter. So many like outdoor filament style bulbs, they shatter so fast. This is the first one I've seen that was like shatter resistant, so that's cool. Matter support, they are, I believe these are Matter support, yeah. Music sync built in, AI powered, all this kind of crazy stuff. So those look very cool. My favorite one though, Thibaut, is this outdoor lamp post light. So it literally is a long post with a round light on the top, and it puts out 2,000 lumens. There's 60 white LEDs in there as well, 6 zone RGBIC lighting control, so you can do different gradients and cool stuff like that. First ever one that they say has multi-level motion support. So there's like, you can have this turn on when there is motion going by it, and has IP66 water resistance rating. Now, at first I looked at this and I moved past it. Like I saw, I'm like, okay, it's just a light on a stick. Keep going. But then it hit me. This thing can be like moved around. It has 3 different mounting options. You can screw it to your deck. You can put a sandbag around it, or you can use spikes for in the ground. And I'm like, I love that, because you could take it out there and just put it in your yard while you're playing, stake in the ground, have it out in the yard while you're just having like a night out. You can put it up on your deck and use the sandbag or water bag to hold it into place. The fact that this is portable and it's a smart light that works with Matter, then I got really excited by it. And then it has motion support built in at the same time, so you can leave it out there and it just can be hanging out, and then you walk by it and it can turn on. Also super, super cool. This is really neat. I'm very excited by this one. So what do you think of these 3? Any of these that jump out at you?
The last one is really good, and the only point is if you have ultra bright light in the garden or outside, you should take care of not having lights going up. Because there is light pollution. I don't know if you are sensitive to these points, but all the lights in Paris have been changed to just enlight the streets and not the buildings. Because before, when you were arriving, it was just a big orange bulb, the whole Paris, because of all the lights everywhere. And Paris is a city of light, but we take care of about the light pollution. And we have birds singing in the morning because they sleep well at night.
That is true. Yes. So it is just downward facing light. So
Perfect.
it's like a round disc on the top and everything is
Perfect.
focused downward. So yeah, no light pollution going on, strictly downward facing.
Very good product.
Yeah, this just looks super cool to me. Price is a little high. Full MSRP is $429 in the US. They're launching right now at 360. Sorry, 360, but it still looks really neat. So I'm still very eager to play around with this one. Easily something we're adding to our outdoor space. So many outdoor products launching right now for the summer and the smart home. We got like new wireless routers for the outside. We got cameras. We got lights, motion sensors, all this fun stuff. So it's pretty great. We have Aqara next, but I'm going to take a quick break. Let's thank our sponsors for the episode. So first up is Shopify, and I was actually out over the weekend with my aunt, and we were looking at things at the mall, and I look over her shoulder. What is she doing? She's literally on the Shop app. I'm like, I love it. I love seeing Shopify in real life of people using Shopify and the Shop app, and I was like, hey, them. They're cool. I also like that app. There's always great things going on with Shopify. So let's go over the high level stuff of why Shopify is so great. So it is the platform when you need to build a website to sell whatever it is you have to sell. And whether that is just you making soaps out of your garage or you're a much bigger company, like so many of the tech companies that are using Shopify, Nomad, Moment, 12 South, some of my favorite companies, they all turned to Shopify. So they can focus on what they do best, like making really cool products and not having to worry as much about a whole website. You can either go in without knowing to code anything, or you can go in and completely customize it to your needs, design, build everything from scratch that just runs on the Shopify platform. I love how it has the trusted checkout. When you go to the checkout, not only is it fantastic at converting customers into actually buying, customers love it because it is safe, secure, it is known to them. It doesn't look like a shady website. They know exactly where they're putting information, and heck, information might already be saved. They can check out with Shop Pay, making it super easy. You click it, you get a code to your phone, you just enter it, it's like boom, boom, boom. You're checked out, no problem. Or they can use Google Pay, Apple Pay, and many other options. It even supports the Apple Wallet app for like tracking orders, which is one of the few platforms that actually does that still. So that's cool. I know over the holidays I bought a bunch of things and all my orders showed up in the Wallet app. It was great. I loved it. So Shopify, fantastic. They are so easy to use, implement. You can focus on what you do best. You don't have to worry about taxes and shipping and where you're shipping to and package size, all this stuff. It handles it for you, just makes it easy from top to bottom. So if you haven't already, try out Shopify to help grow your business and make it successful. Turn your business idea into success thanks to Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/homekit. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/homekit, shopify.com/homekit. Then we have fast growing trees. And man, I have been really focusing on the garden the last couple weeks because we're getting into that nice weather, right? Time to plant things. And all of my fruit trees, they are looking so happy right now. I have cherries on my cherry trees that I'm going to be able to pick, later this summer. They're already like the size of like acorns. Like they're getting there. Like a smaller acorn, not a big one without the hat. You guys know what cherries look like. I've also got apples going too. They're also doing really well, especially on my 5-in-1 apple tree. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I have 5 varieties of apples on one tree that I got through fast growing trees. And the most recent addition is some new blueberries. We have 3 very big, very lush pink blueberry or pink lemonade blueberry bushes that I planted right next to all of the raspberries that I have, and they are just taking off. They are already covered in berries, and apparently pink lemonade ones, which I had not heard about, but is like one of their top selling varieties because they have a million of them. It produces like all through the summer. So I'm getting berries now, and I'm going to continue getting berries until like October or something here in Ohio. I'm so excited for that, and Harrison is just eating all the raspberries he can get his tiny little mitts on. So we're going to go back, check the chickens. He's going to steal some raspberries, steal some blueberries, not help at all with the actual chores, just eat all the fruit and head back into the house. So it's fun. I love it. Fast Growing Trees has all the different varieties that you need for your home. They have fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, so much more. So it's not just about fruit. There's other stuff they have, basically everything you need to landscape your property. And whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered by helping you find the ones that fit your climate and space. So I can say, I'm Ohio in zone 6, and it's like, here are all the things that'll work. Here's all the trees that make sense for you, all the bushes, the flowers. It'll pick all that out for you. Then they show up at your house at the appropriate time. You plant them, and everything does fantastic. I love it. I've been shopping for them for years. My mom is adding to her. They just got a new house a little while ago. Of course, she's doing her landscaping. She's looking for blueberry bushes and other stuff to add to her property. So it's catching on. This spring, they have all the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code HomeKit at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code HomeKit at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code HomeKit. Now is the perfect time to plant. Use HomeKit to save today. Offers valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. So Aqara, I guess the big thing that they partnered with this company called AOK. Have you heard of them before, Thibaut? I'd never heard of them.
No.
Yeah, me either. I assume they're probably local to China or something like that, but they are partnering them for all sorts of matter shades. And I'm really excited to look into what they have to offer. So these are for indoor or outdoor use, and the full lineup of shades they are partnering with include awnings, curtains, external Venetian blinds, interior blinds, pergolas, rolling shutters, and zigzag blinds. This is going to be our first awning and pergolas that I know of that would be Apple Home compatible, right?
Fine.
I think that would. So right now, does Apple Home even support those things specifically? That's really interesting how they may show up. Well, okay.
It's an opening.
This gets confusing.
It's just an opening. So you choose how much you want to open it from 0 to 100%, and that's it. The problem, in fact, is that you don't know how it's opening, if it's vertical or horizontal. So to put an icon is really difficult for an app. And we don't have a catalog of all the products available to know if the Aqara model ZZ is a vertical or horizontal. That's an issue right now.
Yeah, so I had, because I know these were all specifically added as individual device types with Matter, but I think that Apple hasn't added support for that type of Matter yet. So my guess is, like you said, Aqara is going to show them as basically a regular curtain or something. Even if it's a pergola, it's going to show up as like a regular curtain or shade with just how much it's open and closed.
Yeah.
So hopefully Apple will actually support the proper device types so that we can get more icons, and then third-party apps as well. You'd be able to discern what type, or do you plan to add all these device types, or are you going to wait for Apple to update to the Matter first?
We go through HomeKit, and Matter is seen by HomeKit. It's really difficult to do some HomeKit, some Matter-specific stuff in an app. So the best way is that Apple, which is a part of Matter, does its job to put the new devices into HomeKit, accessibility through HomeKit, I would say, and then everyone could use them.
True. Well, outside of Aqara, we have Homey launching. I said we were talking about hubs. Here's another one. The Homey Pro Mini has launched. So this is $199, has Ethernet, Zigbee, Thread, and Matter connectivity. Everything is locally controlled. There's the Homey Pro OS that this is running on to power this thing. It has 1 gig of memory and 8 gigs of storage. Basically, they're saying this delivers like fast performance with 20 apps supported. That's how many people can support on this. And then there's also still the Hub Pro, which offers double the RAM, but is more expensive. So I have not played around with Homey too much, but you can connect, like we talked about, like Zigbee and Thread devices to this, and then those can be bridged into Apple Home. You can also just run everything through Homey. because they also have a really nice app and all of those things. But I've not played around with these too much. I mean, obviously, as a developer that is specifically creating an Apple Home app, have you messed around with any of these like home adjacent things like Home Assistant, Homey, any of that stuff?
Not directly, in fact, but the good point is that the more of such product we will have, the more Apple will be forced to be good in the smart home environment. Because the main point of Matter is that it's multi-master. So you can have several masters that program your home, do automations, and so you will do your automation at the best place. So Apple must be the best place. So and if you look at how it was before, when you had a HomeKit product like Eve, you couldn't use it with a Samsung phone, for instance. And now with Matter, you can use it in several with several devices, several environments, which do not depend of what you need. Another thing I was thinking about a few hours ago is just if you think about the old homes that we have. In fact, at the beginning, they had no water, they had no electricity, and we have added everything. But you see, in the US, you still have the same electricity that in the first days. In Europe, we have changed from 120 to 220 volts, but it's made to last. And the solution we had before, they were not lasting. And Matter is done to be able to last. So if you install a Matter switch, it should last 20 years. We know that bad products won't last, but some really last for a very long time. And we now have a solution for that, and this is a really good point because a lot of people are building home or renewing homes, and it costs a lot, and so they should be able to buy the good products. And when you talk about the connectivity like Zigbee and Thread, I really think that we, as Apple user, we should all go to Thread because Thread is standard by Matter, and there is an extension. So if you have a device that is far away, like in the garden, if you put a Thread device in your garage, then you will have extension of the Thread network up to your garden. And it's really useful and good because before you had Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi doesn't go everywhere. You can't add a Wi-Fi repeater just for one lamp or one sensor. And it's the way to go. And I think we will have those technology for a very long time.
I agree. And I mean, that's been the best part about Apple Home in general. I mean, I see people who are picking up those like cheap Amazon controlled outlets, plugs, smart plugs, and they last for like a year or two. I still have my original Eve products. Like they were the first ones, they might have been the first to support, Apple Home when it was that HomeKit and everything. And I picked up everything they had from motion sensor to outdoor weather sensor. I did lose my outdoor one because we moved and I left it out on the patio. So I was pretty bummed by that. But I still have the contact sensor in the window here in the studio. I peeled it off and brought it here. It still works just fine. So it's been crazy, some of these products that have lasted me easily like 10 years, whatever. Since HomeKit has existed, my products are still supported and still work, and they're working with Matter. Now I feel like we're starting to get to the point where maybe it makes sense to start switching to more Matter devices because we're going to have like controllers like the Brilliant panel, which I actually want to talk about in a second. But it's really cool to see all these things. I do like the homey stuff a lot, so I'm excited for the new mini one that comes out at that like lower price point. So I want to show off the Brilliant panel that I got installed, and then we're going to talk about the Maisomage app real quick. This is really fast because I don't have the new one in my hand, but I have my old one that I can hold up for people who don't know what the Brilliant panels are. And this one is a 3-switch one that I had in my living room and has 3 switches. It's got like the camera and stuff on the top and is the screen. Now, the biggest high-level features for the Gen 2 models that just launched, 4 times the resolution on the screen. It is faster with new processor inside, and they have dual band Wi-Fi, so like 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. So it should give you better connectivity depending on where you have on this home. And I can tell you all of those things are true in spades. Holy smokes, was the setup experience even better on these Gen 2 models. It went really fast, really smooth. The newer high resolution display looks amazing, and it makes me a little angry that the amount of photos that you can upload is so limited, because I want to put more photos onto this thing to display them because they look so pretty, and I'm bummed that you can't do more than what's on there now. They added the back panel. Again, watching on video, this is the original version. The back panel of this is chunky. Like, it is very deep. And I actually had a little bit of trouble getting it into the wall because with the wires and with this, it was tight. The new one, you'll see the photo in the written review, but it's about half this almost. So I had way more space inside of the wall when installing it. So huge upgrade there. Now, these come apart, so you have the actual part that goes click. It has the back. This part goes into the wall. This was designed a little bit. These are like your still backup buttons. You can still control your lights. There's just 3 little soft buttons in there. Those have been changed. But the bigger part is on the back of the panel, there's now a mute button, which I thought was really great for privacy reasons. You can literally take off the panel, turn it around, toggle a physical mute switch. So this thing is never listening to you if you don't want to worry about that. So I think those are both really meaningful updates, and the thing is really fast. So it is really fast. I've had no connectivity problems. This one, it would yell at me like, oh, can't find your Wi-Fi. I'm like, yes, you can. The Wi-Fi hasn't changed. You haven't moved. Why are you arguing with me? And I don't know why. It was being picky about it, but no connectivity issues at all. Screen looks super sharp. It's very fast, especially typing. Goes really smoothly. And I like those secret upgrades of the physical mute switch and the thinner back panel. That just makes the installation easier. So I'm pretty happy with these. These are really cool. So check out the new Brilliant panels if everyone hasn't already, if you have a spot that these make sense in your home. Okay, T-Ball, let's talk about Maisomage. Give me the high level of the app for anyone who hasn't heard about it before. What's your pitch? Because there's a lot of great apps out there for Apple Home. We've talked about it a bunch on the podcast. So what makes Maisomage so unique and good?
In fact, it's a way that we want to work, that it's really different. The first time you talked about us, you were saying, I don't know what they mean by Maisomage. In fact, it's a joke because in French, we have la maison magique, which that's where it comes from. We invented la maison magique, which is the magic home. So, in fact, the purpose is to have a magic home. Like you go up and then things pop up and you can manage your home. But the big point is privacy. Because if you go to your toilet, you switch on the light, and Google knows that you have switched on the light of the toilet, and you go out, and you go back, and they know at what time you are switched on. They know everything about your life. Because everything is in their cloud, and it's not a privacy cloud. They have access to it. They take it. They sell it. You don't know what they do about it. So we want it to be very different about this point. We want to be privacy first. So we collect nothing. We don't know what people do with our app because we can't know. We don't want to know. And Apple guarantees that with HomeKit, they don't want to mess what you do about it. That's why you have a HomeKit Secure Video. It's guaranteed that no one has access to your video. And to show this, we have the name Maisomage. Because it's a play on word. Because when you want to have a great polite formula for a woman, you say, avec Maisomage, madame. So it's a play on word on the fact that we want to be polite and high quality, and the fact that it's magical at the same time. So what we did is that we started by doing CO2 automation. Like you have too much CO2 in your room, then you start to think slowly and you don't realize it, and you have CO2 sensors. But with Apple Home, at a point when it's way too high, they say you have a problem with CO2, but they don't let you know before. So we started by smart automation for CO2. If you have a CO2 sensor, you should try it. Because, for instance, you don't want to be wake up in the middle of the night because you have too much CO2. So
Yeah.
you have schedules with days and so on. And this is not possible with Apple Home alone. And then we have realized that, in fact, we can't have an app with just smart thing inside because people won't know the app. So we have started to give access to scenes because in Apple Home, in the Apple Home app, there are not good scenes. So we worked with that. So you can say, I want home cinema setup, like the blinds are closing, you have a specific color of light, a specific intensity of light. But then the problem is that when you scroll in the list, you click on what have you done? Have you unlocked the garage door? Have you opened it? You don't know what you have done. So what we have done recently is that we have added a long press. So you long press and then you set up your scene. And to make a blink to what we do, we have put a magic wand, and then you have the magic wand, and at the end of the magic wand animation, because you long press, then the scene goes on. And we have, people always have colors for the lights. We put the color of the light. So if you press on a button and you see that it's the wrong color, you just stop pressing and you won't have the light. You choose the right one. You see the good color, and then you will have the color that goes in your whole room. And that's what we do. It's really long to do. It's really expensive to do. So we work step by step. We have years to go to do everything we want. We are open to feedbacks. People should tell us what they need right now, what is lacking for them, and we will work on it. So that's our main
Do you
point. And also, just a last thing, we want to work everywhere where it's useful. So we work on Apple TV, on iPhone, iPad, Mac. On Mac, you can manage several homes at home at once. So if you have a home for vacation, you can manage it from your Mac and managing your bedroom and the other room to put on the heater, for instance, when you go to the winter in your home, you can do this from your Mac. And we also do Vision Pro because it's useful. The only thing we have not done right now is the Apple Watch because the Home app on the Apple Watch is quite good, in fact, from what we think. But we use the Apple Watch. For instance, my son, when he goes to school, the heater goes off in his room because he has an Apple Watch, and going out of the home, launches a Maisomage automation, and then the heater goes off. And you know that managing heater schedules is a mess, and then having this automatic management by presence by Apple devices is really easy, in fact. So that's a main presentation of what we want to do.
do you have any sort of standby mode widget at all? I'm very curious.
No, not yet, because in fact there is a big issue is that everyone wants to have widget to see if your light is on, if your light is off. But the way widgets are working is that they should not consume energy on your phone because you don't want to have no battery because you have a widget on your phone. So Apple gives you time for apps just a few times a day, and quite often it's not synchronized with the reality, except for the Apple Home app, which has full system access. So we don't want to work on things that we won't bring value. We want to add features like we did with the CO2 automations or the economy mode when we go out of your home. And we have other settings in preparation like for window covering and so on. But we work with them for months, years to be sure that everything is all right before releasing.
What about what other things do you want Apple to unlock? So I know some of Apple's best features, they still keep just for the Home app. For example, cameras. You can view cameras in third-party apps, but you can't view the recording. And while their interface is decent enough, I have to believe that a third-party developer could create a improved interface for viewing recordings from, HomeKit secure video cameras that you can't view at all on third-party apps. Is there anything like that you would like to see Apple unlock for third-party devs?
Um, we don't need this for our app. In fact, there is a big fallback, a big issue. It's connectivity. And so if you make an app to show your camera, and then you are traveling and you have no network access, you don't have the live image. And then you think the app is crap. But in fact, it's just you don't have connectivity. And this is a big issue. So if you look at what Apple does for viewing the cameras, the job is correct. And I don't think we can do better than what Apple does for viewing. Perhaps I don't use other systems and I don't see what others are making, but without HomeKit Secure Video, I mean, but that's not the main point. The main point is really that we have remote control homes, and we should go to smart homes. That when you arrive, you have things that are active. For instance, why do you close the curtains? It's because you need to close the curtains. But why do you need that? There are reasons behind, and you have sensors. And perhaps you shouldn't manage your curtains yourself. You see, that's a kind of thing that we are working on improving. But it's long, and we don't want to push things that are not ready. So that's why we don't have more stuff right now.
Okay, here's a question. Apple is rumored to be unlocking on-device AI models with iOS 26, if we're going to go with the 26 naming that is rumored, or iOS 19, whatever it's called. But they're going to allow apps to use their own on-device AI engines. Would you be able to use anything like that to help automate anything in the home? Would you be able to create any features around that?
We work on such features, but we can do only what Apple's allow. And for instance, for what you said about having a pop-up when you are at the top of your stairs, they have created what they call app intents. It's a big bit technical, but they have just about 10 of them, 10 kinds of use of these intents, but they don't have anything for Apple Home. So we have asked them already, but currently they have nothing, and I don't know if they would. But we definitely work on this subject.
I'm trying to think, like, if you could all on device, if you could see when people are using their accessories and use those on-device AI models to then be able to be predictive about suggesting a scene or something like that, based on how they're using it within your app.
In fact, if you remember the privacy thing, the point is not that we would do the thing, is that we would allow your iPhone to know that now it's time to do something with us. So that's what we are working on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
We don't want to know what you do.
Which is always good. That's why everyone, Dan and I got into that all last week of like these AI cloud services that get very scary when it comes to your smart home because they're going to have to know what you do. And the whole point about HomeKit and your app and many other, HomeKit apps is it's all local. There's nothing going out. There's no analytics, no what you're controlling when you're home, nothing. And I think a lot of HomeKit users like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm excited for Apple to introduce local AI models that could maybe do some stuff on device without having to send it out. And I'm curious how that will have ramifications for the home, how third-party devs could be able to use anything like that. But I think it's exciting. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Walking through all the news and your app. It's very enlightening. I'm very excited for WWDC. I hope you are too.
Yes, of course.
I will be covering all of the news for everyone. Next week's episode, another super special guest. We're going to get chatty, I'm sure. So it's going to be a great episode next week. I'm also going to do the WWDC like wish list episode next week. Like it'll be like just ahead of Dub. So expect that. So if anyone still has more suggestions on what you want to see with iOS 19, Apple's other platforms, whatever they're called, make sure you send them in. I've gotten a few. So leave them in the video version of this. You can see it at youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Email them to me at andrew@appleinsider.com or put them on Twitter, Andrew_OSU, also on Threads and Blue Sky, all the different apps. Thibaut, thank you again. Everyone can go download the Maisomage app if you would like. Like you said, it's on literally every platform. It was the first HomeKit app, I think, that I saw for Vision Pro.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. First one to launch on Vision Pro, so that's always exciting too. There you go. So try it, give it a shot. If you guys have feedback, you can reach out. How can they reach out to you? Twitter, is that the easiest way for them to send you feedback on the app?
Or in the App Store also.
Perfect. There you guys go. Awesome. Everyone do what you guys do best. Give this review 5, 10, 100-star rating on your podcast player of choice. And join me next week for another very exciting, very special episode. See you, everyone.